Hey, good evening and welcome to this Valentine's edition of the Waterboro Board of Selectmen's meeting. You'd all rise for Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome for those of you that are here and have tuned in. I want to apologize for we're a bit late this evening, maybe a couple minutes getting going, but we will forge ahead, no doubt. We have no public hearing. Any announcements from the board other than it's Valentine's Day, and if you forgot, you probably do have some time to go get the wife something, or the significant other something. Any deletions or additions to the agenda? We do have a couple of appointments. One is to introduce our second contract deputy, and I would presume that you guys are ready to do that. So welcome to Waterboro.
Thank you very much, Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator Gary Lamb, and to the public. Your County Sheriff's Office is very proud to have another contract deputy supported by the citizens of the town of Waterboro. My name is Chief Deputy Tom Barron. I'm the Chief of the Patrol Division. And I'm very pleased that the community committed to another contract deputy so that the issues that are present can be addressed. There's a contact person, obviously Deputy Sanborn, as you know, has had that great rapport with the community, and likewise I expect nothing more than Deputy Collins to have also that great rapport with the community and be very approachable. So I applaud the efforts here. I think it's a great segue to giving the protection that the citizens are looking for, and to have somebody on a personal contact to know who to call and talk to about a problem. So, Deputy Kevin Collins, he's the contract deputy, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and his experience so that you get to know him a little bit better, and so that you also can ask any questions of it. So, Deputy Collins.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. So I started out my career as a public safety dispatcher, and even before that, I started out as a call firefighter for the town of Scarborough. I was 16 years old, still in high school, and from there I got involved in the Police Explorer program in Scarborough, and then that got me into dispatching. I started a dispatching career in 1998. I did that for 15 years and then decided that it was time for me to do something different, and I got into patrol work. I got hired by the town of Buxton in 2013, and then went to the academy in August of 2014, graduated from the academy in 2014 in December, and then came here to the Sheriff's Office in June. So I'm really looking forward to being part of the community. Just like Sean, I'm a very approachable person. If anybody needs anything, reach out to me. I'm huge on communications. Just communicate with me. If there's something that you need, let me know. I'm always here. And just looking forward to being involved in the community.
Good. Well, we certainly welcome you and hope that we can develop the same kind of relationship that we've had with not only Sean, but the previous deputies here too. I think we've had a pretty good run, and although Sean, I think, has got the longest run going right now. But and we appreciate his efforts, even though we do beat him up occasionally when he comes in here. But and rightfully so, I guess most people would say. So we'll give you a list of all the cars that we have. But no, it's we. As Gary knows, we've expressed a little frustration with getting the timing of getting somebody on and whatnot, but I think that's behind us now, and we move forward, and we look forward to having you in town, and I think the taxpayers look forward to having you. So get out and meet and greet, and I think it's a great business community to become familiar with too, and
Absolutely.
and whatnot. So and Matt's got an office that you guys you got bunk beds in the office over there now. Or?
Yeah, right across the hall.
Yeah. So
One thing that I didn't mention too that that the community should be aware of is that I'm also a child's passenger safety seat technician. So if somebody's looking to make sure that their child safety seat's installed in their vehicle correctly, or if they have a newborn child, certainly get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to take a look at it and make sure it's put in there properly.
yeah, maybe it's a great opportunity to have the public safety committee or something do a seat check or something
Absolutely.
occasionally
Yep.
during the course of the year. So that would be great.
Very good.
Good. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I have a
Any-
question.
Yep.
What do you see as the biggest holes that you're going to help fill that Sean cannot get to now?
Well, I think right now, I mean, I don't know what the future is going to look like, but right now I'm on evening shift. So just being around in the evening where Sean's here during the day all the time, the stuff that happens in the evening, there's a different variety of things that are going on. So I think that's the biggest hole right now is getting some coverage in the evening where it's dedicated coverage, where I can sit and work in Waterboro and follow cases through all the way to the end. And certainly traffic gets heavy at 5, 6 o'clock at night. So to enforce some traffic in the evening when it's not normally around is a big thing. I spend a lot of time running traffic. I stop a lot of cars, and that's my big thing is being proactive. I move around constantly, stop cars, and answer calls in between. So
In the short time you've been working with us, have there been details where you've worked 2 or 3 officers, the speed trap around the high school or something like that?
one of the other deputies, Heath Maines, is also assigned to evening shift with me. And he's been kind of a float car for us for the last month or so. And he's focused in Waterboro with me. We've worked a lot of details and done a lot of traffic enforcement, getting a lot of warrants, doing some bail checks, and just trying to keep the town, keep us moving around in the town and keep us safe. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Question for Tom, real quick. These guys will interface with the resource officer over to the high school, right?
Yes, they do.
So there's a-
Yeah, we touch base, and the communication, what they have for information goes to the SRO, and likewise, if he has some information, comes back to them to make sure everybody's in communications with each other.
Because there's not, unlike a lot of the other communities around, they don't have, 2,000 kids in town
Yeah.
just for 6 hours a day. That adds a little extra burden here.
Yeah, Deputy Shinard is definitely very good at communicating with Sean and I. He'll send us emails with issues he's got with students or things that he thinks may spill over to home, or so it works out well.
Let me get Dave up in the back.
I just want to thank him for being there the other night in the middle of the blizzard.
You're welcome, sir.
We had a problem with someone parking a vehicle in a turnaround, plow turnaround, and I called, and it wasn't 5 minutes, and he was there. It was ideal.
Good.
Got the vehicle moved and worked out great.
John, you had a question? Okay. Gary?
Just one other point, I guess. We've learned through great planning with the state of Maine that the communications between fire and police are not as easily accomplished now, and unfortunately Kevin doesn't have a fire radio in his cruiser, in part because of the gods from Augusta separated those 2 or 3 years ago, I think, and when that happened. So we may very well want to do that, get him a radio in his cruiser, because right now he can't talk to the chief or the deputy chief, and that's not a good situation.
We have one in Sean's cruiser? No?
So we just had the discussion about this just before the meeting began, and
Is that statewide car to car? Is that what's gone?
well, it's the dispatching. The different dispatching centers now is what's somewhat created a problem.
Okay.
So what one dispatch center knows, maybe the other doesn't, or what the time element is from the relay from going to one to the other is sometimes an issue. So if we can hear direct, and it goes both ways. Sometimes, say, police doesn't know what fire is doing, fire may not know what police is doing. Communication does have to change, and so we're looking at, getting some radios, seeing what we have, and possibly having to purchase some, so that we can have that fire frequency, because it's a different frequency than we operate on for police. So it's a whole different radio
Yeah, so
itself.
VHS versus UHF.
But we'll work that out, and hopefully we'll get that
Is there
solved.
another hand over the side of the, no? Anything else from the board? Any questions? Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for coming.
thanks for
Thank you
coming
for
in,
having
and we get your picture blasted all over town now. So. Sean used to love to come in and talk about pit parties here.
I've seen the cruiser out around.
Yep.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
It does show up around town, so.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, another appointment we have is Steve Bodge. Did I say that right, Steve?
I don't suppose you want to stay and listen to this, would you? I'll be.
Something about
Absolutely, 10, 15.
rumble strips on the on Route 202 and 5.
I was about ready to ask you to hang around.
I use a little bit of your table here. You guys all set?
Yeah.
Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Steve Bodge. I'm with Maine DOT. I'm in a safety committee, and I'm also the assistant program director for the highway program, putting out highway projects around the state. I've come to tell you tonight that rumble strips are coming to Waterboro. I have one map that I'll present to you folks. I'll let you share it back and forth. As far as exact locations on that map, in words, if you will, is Alfred to Waterboro on Route 202, 2.9 miles from the 45-mile-an-hour sign at Brackett Hill Road to the 35-mile-an-hour sign at Railroad Drive. Now, most of that's, I believe, in Alfred. Also in Waterboro on Route 202, we have 2.2 miles from 55-mile-an-hour sign at Straw Mill Brook Road, if I have that correct,
Yep.
to the beginning of the center turn lane south of Route 5. And then the third section in Waterboro is from Waterboro to Lyman on Route 202, 1.1 miles. And that's the 50-mile-an-hour sign near Dearborn Construction to the intersection of New County Road, which is Route 5. So 3 sections in Waterboro. A little bit of background on rumble strips real quick is the department started putting rumble strips in Maine in 2006. For the most part, from 2006 to 2014, we were essentially chasing issues. If we had a corridor with head-on collisions or multiple head-on collisions, or if we had a corridor where a town, for instance, or multiple towns would ask us to come and put rumble strips in, essentially we would. In those first 8 years, we put in a total of 55 miles of rumble strips. And then we decided that it makes much more sense to take a systemic approach and look and try to find out where these accidents are happening. We dug into our accident data and finally finished a study where we realized that most of our head-on collisions, most of our fatalities in the state are happening on a certain type of roadway. And those types of roadways have 3 characteristics. They're high speed, they're 45 miles an hour or higher. They have high volume of traffic, 6,000 cars a day or more. And they're on our highest corridor priority roads. Maine DOT has a corridor priority system 1 through 6, with 1 being the highest corridor priority, being our interstate and our busiest routes, and then 6 being just town roads. So these accidents are happening on our corridor priority 1 and 2s, high speed and high traffic. These sections of Route 202 all hit all 3 criteria, so they were selected to go into the mix to get rumble strips. Starting in 2015, we took an approach where we're going to hit as many of these corridors as we can, which would total approximately 500 more miles to go with the 55 that we already had. We put in 90 miles in 2015. We put in an additional 140 plus miles last year, and we have about 200 miles left to complete our mission of covering rumble strips all centerline rumble strips. I want to make sure I make that clear. Centerline rumble strips on all these types of corridors. The reason I'm here tonight is to get on camera, I guess, or to let you folks know that we're coming. The only negative that we at the department feel about rumble strips is the occasional noise when they're hit. Now, that noise is potentially saving a life, but it's also potentially causing some issues out there as far as nuisance and those types of things. The installation of hundreds of miles over the last 2 or 3 years have caused us to change a couple of our policies, and one of those policies is we've gone to a 3/8 inch deep rumble strip in all locations. We used to be a 1/2 inch. We've shortened that up to 3/8 inch. We get the same result when somebody hits it, but it's a little bit less intrusive as far as noise. The other policy that we've done is we avoid major entrances. So if you have any major entrances, including side roads, those types of things, we don't rumble in front of those. And the third thing is if we have campgrounds or hotels and motels along our routes, we will put a gap in our rumble strip in front of those locations. So I'm here to ask if you have any of those locations that I should be avoiding as part of my laydown in those areas. I'm here to ask that you spread my brochures, my reports, which is basically, my report is essentially a repeat of the background and the history that I just gave you, and spread my business cards to anyone that may have an interest in this or to want to learn about them before they come in the summer of 2017. And of course, to take any questions that you may have.
John?
Do you have to change these every time you tar the road? So how long do you expect when you put the rumble strips in, how long are they there before you have to change them, or you do road work and they come out?
Yeah, we started putting them in 2006, and some of them have been in since 2006. So we're finding that on our roads they're lasting as long as the pavement lasts. Our intention is every time that a corridor with rumble strips gets a new pavement treatment, we will re-rumble after the pavement treatment. So once they're rumbled, we plan on re-rumbling after each pavement treatment. We understand there's going to be a little bit of cost to that, but we also feel that the safety benefits are above and beyond for that, those corridors.
Tim?
How long would you estimate, say take a mile of road, that it takes to install those?
It's not a very long process at
I
all.
don't think so.
One thing I'd like to do is give the new policeman, basically what I'm giving him is a schematic of how the operation works. Putting in rumble strips is a moving operation, what we call a moving operation. It has a safety vehicle in the front and a safety vehicle in the back, with all of the operations taking place in between those two vehicles. There's no police escort, there's no flagging situation. It's basically as vehicles approach the operation from either end, they'll get a keep right sign. We'll ask the folks to hourglass around the operation. So if you come up behind it, we'll ask you to go around it to the right. If you come onto it from the front, it will be in the center line for a short period of time. We'll ask you to just fade around it. All rumble strips that we put in are on corridors with 4-foot shoulders or more, so we shouldn't have any issues with traffic. If we do have some type of a nervous driver, if you will, that doesn't want to go around the situation, we have a resident that will pull the rumble strips to the side of the road and let the traffic clear. We're not trying to cause any traffic issues. We've been doing this for 10 years and we haven't had any issues with the operation itself as far as causing any accidents or any of that stuff. So that's for you to keep, sir, and I just wanted people to know how the operation takes place. But
Couple comments.
sure.
It's awful hard to put them rumble strips down where you've just laid, you're saying you're going a 1/2 inch deck and they've only laid 3/8 of an inch and shimmed the road. Some of this pavement's coming back up. 202 is breaking up. 202 from North Country to Alfred Village. That's almost a disaster over there, that rumble strip. In 2 years' time, after you put it in, the pavement's breaking up. The pavement up. So that's causing more of a disaster than a head-on collision as far as accidents and trying to maintain it.
That's the first we've heard of any issues caused by rumble strips.
Take a ride over on 202 tomorrow and take a look at it.
So, can you give me a couple more markers? Route 202 between where and where?
North Country, Sanford Town Line, and Alfred.
Okay, thank you.
Alfred Village?
Yes. Stop sign of 111, lights at 111.
We'll definitely keep an eye on that.
That was my biggest concern with the note that I'd got was Route 5, and they just paved that a year ago, and you ain't got pavement enough to put them rumble strips. My guess is 202 from East Waterboro to the Lyman line, probably you do, and there's a shoulder there. So, but 90% of these head-on collisions is texting.
Oh, I agree.
We don't need the rumble strip if they stop this texting going down the highway. And these cell phones are creating 99% of this. And believe me, I'm out on the road every day, and that's all you see.
Well, texting's a big part of it, and you know we have fatigue driving, of course, those types of things, and yeah, this is meant to keep people in their own lane. Is it foolproof? Absolutely not. But we do have you know studies that show that nationwide this is working to try to eliminate or try to at least lessen some of these collisions. And in our own state, in locations that we have put them, we have as much as 90% reduction in fatalities. So it's working, and we hope that we've chosen the busiest and the most important roads at this point without being too intrusive to each of the towns that we go to.
Have we had any fatalities on 202 or Route 5 in the last 5 years?
I honestly don't have that with me.
I don't recall anything.
The brochure has our safety office director right on the back of it. He's actually emailed a few towns recently, giving them specific data for their area. If you want to contact him, we have all kinds of accident data and that type of stuff that he could probably supply for you within a day or two
I think
time.
you said it's the category of the road, not necessarily where an incident occurred, right?
No, true. We're trying to be more systemic about the situation. We're trying to hit the system before any bad accidents happen, but I think he was asking a separate question. He just wanted to check into his own sections.
Okay,
I have one.
Gary?
But to that end, we know that pavement is peeling up all over the place, and if you come back here, go on Old Alfred Road when there's no pavement, and before you turn it over to us, it's now coming up with the snowplows. So we have our own rumble strips on Old Alfred Road. They're not good ones. But to make these last, are you putting these down only on pavement of a minimum thickness?
Well, I was unaware of the situation that the gentleman said, Dwayne, but all of our pavement fixtures now are 3/4 of an inch, and all of our rumble strips are 3/8 of an inch. So, in theory, you're only going halfway down.
Right.
So we didn't think we were having any issues, but we are going to look into this one. But at the same time, we want to make sure we put the pavement down first and then rumble the new pavement, because typically that's going to be ready for a rumble. The other thing we're doing is we put a sealant over the rumble strip, which may or may not have happened in the first 5 or 10 years of installation. We're now into year 11 of installation, so maybe early on we weren't sealing to keep the water out, which is one of the things that you said. And then the last thing we do is stripe right back over it, so there's all that's taken care of. But
You've got a rumble strip going down 111, and there's nothing to have either a deathly transport off 111 once a week, and that's got rumble strips all the way down through there. So realistically, that ain't helping the head-ons on 111. That's a 55-mile-an-hour road, but they're traveling 65 and 70, and it's an awful stretch of road. But
what towns is that in, sir?
that is Lyman.
In Arundel?
Rundle, yeah, all the way to.
Yeah,
Benefit.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I think some of that issue on 111 is congestion and trying to get somewhere in a really short amount of time, excuse me.
Absolutely.
And we have multiple projects planned right now. I'm actually in the highway program, and we have multiple projects planned on 111, and what we're calling those is additional lanes, if you will, and we're actually building those to the right so that people won't have to go across the center line to pass. We can get the slower cars or the ones going the speed limit, if you will,
Yeah.
to go to the right lane. We have 3 or 4 miles planned for 111, so that should help some of that issue as well. But
Bridget, you had a question?
I did. Right now, when I go through Alfred Village, the road's getting pretty bad. So if you're going to rumble that area next summer, are you going to pave first?
That won't be rumbled right in the village. That's not part of this.
Well, I misheard then, because I thought he said it Sanford line to Alfred Village. But
He's gonna start, they're gonna start,
do you have
Coming
that in
out of-
writing?
coming-
I'm writing this up for the other paper.
looks like coming out of Alfred just by Giles.
It's gonna start at Brackett.
Just by Giles,
Oh,
and it's
okay.
gonna go all the way up to, well, down, up over the hill and down to almost the police barracks.
That got paved last year.
Yes, that's fine. It's south of that I was wondering about, because that's falling
It's
apart.
not in the village.
So we're gonna see it
Thank you.
from the town line all the way to, Railroad Drive, whatever it is, that
yeah, Railroad Drive.
Railroad
yes.
Drive. So,
Golf cart.
the golf cart place, so.
And
But
then-
it will be rumbled all the way, it looks like over the top of Shaker Hill, all the way to, looks like possibly somewhere by where Giles starts. So
Okay,
it's where the
when-
speed.
When I write this up to get, like, Railroad Drive, I don't think anybody will know where that is, that hasn't lived here for.
R&B.
So,
Well, it's busy
can I,
forever.
I know, I'm hearing that now, but I would like to put that in what I write, so that people who have only been here like
Right.
one generation can,
We'll get you a copy of this.
thank you. I'll take it
All
whatever
right,
you
so
need.
you're going to get what you need from those folks. As far as schedule, since that came up a little bit, we're out to contract right now. We're expecting bids here in another week or two. We'll have one contractor do all of the rumble strips statewide for us. Again this year, we've done that the last 2 years, and we'll do that again this year. I do not have any pavement at this time planned, overlays or that type of stuff for these sections of roadway, so they will not be restricted to have to go in behind that pavement. So they will basically be allowed to go anytime between June and September. I obviously don't have the schedule with me right now. There's business cards here. If anybody wants to call me, say in April or something like that, I should have a much better handle on the schedule as to when they're coming through. The question earlier was how long does it take? We're looking at about 6 miles total. I don't think that's any more than 3 or 4 days of work to a week. I mean, that's total. That's rumbling, sealing, and striping back in. So not a long period of time.
When the crews are moving buildings, is it their responsibility to contact you beforehand? Mobile homes, manufactured homes.
Those have, if they're oversized loads, they have to go through motor vehicle, and they have to get a permit for motor vehicle, not a permit from DOT.
So there could be a problem there. You have to pull over and get out of the way for those then as they come through.
Oh, our operation meeting theirs?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a resident that's basically right in the middle of the operation, a resident that oversees the contractor, if you will, make sure the thickness is correct and all that stuff. So they have the ability to move the entire operation to the side of the road for any reason, whether it be traffic delays or like
Wide
the
loads.
situation you're talking about as well. So
David, did you have anything?
No.
Okay.
Nope, I got the notice. We got the notice, what was it, a month ago here?
Quite a while, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming down.
Thank you, Steve.
just leave that stuff there.
Sure.
Just leave it right there.
That's all yours to keep. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. And if you want,
And we'll move on.
before you run your article, if you want, just give me a call.
I
Be
will.
great.
Thank you.
That concludes our appointments. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Public comment. Anybody that would like to speak that is not on the agenda? Bridget?
Bridget McCallum. A few months ago, I came and talked here about the possibility of setting up trails or getting some organization around cross-country skiing and snowshoeing. And I wanted to say that there's been a group formed, Waterboro area snowshoe enthusiasts and wannabes. For anyone who's interested, who is on Facebook, can join. The first activity is planned for this Saturday from 10 to noon at the Sid Emery Experimental Forest, I think it's called, in the Waterboro Lyman line. And if anyone, a lot of people have been talking about wanting to know where they can snowshoe in the area or cross-country ski. So this is one beginning level of organization. We're also working with the Land Trust around trails, logging trails, and all that are on Land Trust land.
Okay?
Is there a contact person for that?
Bridget McCallum. But if you want to get involved with the group itself, which is just really a network of people, it's not a club or anything that organized. I suppose I'm right now the spokesperson, so my name is Brigit, and you could write to me at waterbororeporter.com.
And that's a Massabesic experimental forest by another name?
Well, I don't know that. I wouldn't dare say, because I've heard those two terms, but I don't know if they're the same one.
Interchangeable.
Missy Brandt would be the one who would know, and she's the one we're doing kind of a tracking snowshoe trip Saturday morning.
Okay. Good, thank you. Anything else? Any of the correspondence with Treasurer's Report, Motor Vehicle Excise Tax Reports, Representative Prescott's newsletter, Senator Woodsome's newsletter, and ecomaine recycling reports. Those are here available if anybody would choose to want to look at them. Just contact Sherry. Reports and staff initiatives. Selectmen's reports. Anything, John? Nope. Down the other end of the table, anything, Dwayne?
I've got a letter, and I've handed it over to David, but it's from the state police on how everybody did a wonderful job throughout what they called the blizzard. I called it a snowstorm, but they wanted to thank everybody that was plowing and taking care of all the state and municipal roads. So.
Good. Tim?
I'm all set, thanks.
Gary? Up to you.
Nothing from you? Mine's a page and a half tonight. Gee whiz. I'll try and consolidate since we moved some things from the last meeting here. Well, the font's bigger here so I can read it. On January 17th, the Selectmen had a workshop with Fire Department administration and staff, and we talked about next steps since the voting on November 8th and the fire station addition was defeated. Different possibilities concerning repairs, maintenance, and going forward into possible addition or additional office space, either in an addition or in a separate building. These are all different ideas. Essentially, some things that have happened since we've spoken last. There was a video inspection of the sewer system. There are some problems that can possibly be worked on this coming spring, having some of that system dug up and inspected further. There was a civil engineer that was in the attic, and he's producing some ventilation and insulation suggestions. We haven't seen those yet, but we hope to have them soon. We've discovered that the ridge vent was installed improperly. It was covered with roofing paper, so that's why the ridge vent is not letting warm air out of the attic. Obviously, that needs to be fixed. And at the Board of Selectmen's direction that night, staff has started working on a changed floor plan that can consist of some or all of the following things. Enlarging the existing decontamination area so that you can get a you can get a stretcher in there to clean it off. Right now, that stretcher that might be covered with blood, vomit, or diesel fuel is wheeled out into the truck bay and gently hosed off, and the washings from that go into the floor drain, and that should be going into a septic system. We're talking about the possibility for eliminating the offices for the chief, the deputy chief, administrative assistant, and sheriff's deputy, and converting those into small bunk rooms or other uses. And a possible smaller addition, much less costly than the $2 million proposal for some new administrative offices. So we have a lot of work to do, and Matt has actually has a meeting this Thursday, I think, with a person who can produce some less expensive CAD drawings than an architect. We're just looking for a basic floor plan now, so we'll be back to the Selectmen for your opinion on some of these ideas that you tasked us to look at. And this renovation and addition would be much less expensive than what we were talking about, hopefully something in the $500,000 to $900,000 range. In terms of an update on assessors, we hope to have 3 interviews this coming Friday for the 3 candidates that Sharon and I will be interviewing. I also mentioned before that I went to the Limerick Board of Selectmen at their invitation to see if they wanted to try and find a day per week for an assessor in case we hired one for only 4 days a week. I mentioned that, I think, a few weeks ago, and then also Alfred is interested in a possible day per week if that becomes available. But no commitments were made to either town at this time. We're just in good communication. Budget committee didn't meet last week. Hopefully we will meet this coming Wednesday. And those things are moving along well with the Veteran Budget Committee. All 5 members have returned for another season here. Marijuana update. We haven't talked about that in a little while. We still have 3 options on what to do in proceeding with marijuana businesses here. We can continue to do nothing and wait for the state and federal rulings to happen before allowing or prohibiting retail businesses here. I think that's the wisest move and the least expensive, because we know that nobody can get a local permit for these activities until the state regulations and all the licensing processes are in play. We could also proactively pursue a moratorium like many other communities have done. I personally don't think that's necessary now. And we could either prepare ordinance language to prohibit or to permit and regulate these businesses in town. Perhaps we need a public forum at some point in time if the selectmen want public input, because it does take the planning board a lot more time to come up with regulations and standards for permitting these than it would for a simple prohibition, which would be just a couple of sentences. Some good work on the Economic Development Committee. The EDC and the Board of Selectmen had a TIF workshop, tax increments financing. I'm not going to go into the details here, but essentially it's a way to shelter new development growth from the state valuation so that your school funding does not go down, your revenue sharing does not go down from Augusta, and your county taxes don't go up. That's a gross oversimplification of a rather complex way to have a special tax district, so that as development comes, it doesn't negatively affect your bottom line. And the EDC and the Board of Selectmen will continue to work on that. And last but not least, on a happy note, the Waterboro Food Pantry is up and running. It's not part of the town, but they had a wonderful open house. It was wall-to-wall people on Saturday the 28th. And I just wanted to list the hours here. They're open on the first Tuesdays of each month from 4 to 7, and all other Tuesdays from 1 to 4. That's for pickups. And for donations only, they're open on Saturdays from 2 to 4. And if you need more information, call the food pantry at 247-7789 and leave a message on their machine. As I think most people are aware, this is not an entity of the town, but we certainly want to help them and with information and any possible volunteer assistance if people want to volunteer. That's it from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, comment on the marijuana. If we started working on an ordinance with the planning board and whoever else wants to be involved with this, even though the state is going to come up with regulations, we'd have zoning on where this is allowed. I believe that if we took the gravel pit ordinance and made that, this is some thoughts that I've had running back and forth up and down the road on the last week and a half, but you use those guidelines, that would give you guidelines enough, setbacks enough, so that that's not going to bother other homeowners. But you've got some basic guidelines if you use that gravel pit ordinance.
Yeah, I think, Gary's suggestion that maybe we have a forum and talk about it. I mean, they may very well be.
There's some setbacks in that gravel ordinance that would take care of that, and we wouldn't be pulling up figures that we don't have already in town.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no sense of reinventing the wheel if we don't have to.
I think the wheel's already there.
I think what we need to figure out is if we put a lot of time and effort into something and the general consensus within the town is no, hell no, then
But I think we
wasting a lot.
need to find a place that it is legal, rather than saying no, 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 because then I think you got lawsuits coming that you won't allow something that's allowed within the state.
It would be nice to get the pulse of the community.
Yeah.
The town has the right to not allow these in the town.
They do, but every time you do that, you got a lawsuit. Somebody saying,
doesn't mean you
I
won't.
own 100 acres and I ought to be able to do this, and it's not allowed. And then you got zoning issues. You should allow it somewhere within the town.
Well, you don't have to.
Well-
It's clear that you don't have to.
That's like the fireworks and different things that, we don't have many businesses that aren't allowed somewhere here in town. Our zoning allows some of this. There ain't many, you couldn't pull up many businesses today that aren't allowed somewhere in your zoning. So are you gonna pull one business out and say, no, you can't come to town, you gotta go somewhere else?
I think that's a good reason to have a public forum and have,
Just, I think it would be,
wide open
would be good to
comment.
get the pulse of the community, so.
But if you, my thought was if you pulled that gravel ordinance up.
You can use that as a
As a
law.
guideline, yeah.
Okay. All right, under new business, discuss and vote to accept 2 board member resignations. These are both coming off the EDC, and they're both the ex officio members that have been serving on the EDC. Lisa Hughes and Laurie Warhol. So what is your...
So moved to accept the resignation.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Discuss and possible vote on appointment of Economic Development Committee member. What is your pleasure?
I will move that we accept Christina Mariner as on the Economic Development Committee.
So, seconded.
And that term to expire June 30th, 2019, correct? Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Welcome, Christina. That's Sherry. You'll have to get to know her. Update on drug testing issues. Not sure where we left this, other than something that we've got to bake into the larger scope of things relative to the. Can we just say we're going to drug test everybody that runs big equipment, or do we have to do some portion, or what is allowed, what isn't allowed? Have we gone anywhere with that?
Well, I think, let's try and, first of all, I want to apologize to the Board of Selectmen because I didn't have those 2 people here the last time, and we shouldn't have had that conversation without their medical knowledge, I think. So I think we can fill that gap tonight on their opinions, on whether or not this is something that we want to go forward with. You asked me to look at cost, and between talking to Matt and Lisa and others, it's a little less than $100 for, let's call it a drug test for one person. So you get around $90, call it $100, no more than $100. For the moment anyway, to me, this is a solution in search of a problem. And I guess I'd like to hear if you have some real problems that the Board of Selectmen has in their own minds of what we want to fix here, then let's do that. To just say we need to drug test everybody, including, front office staff and everything else, I don't see that as necessary. Maybe when you're first hired, but other than that, if people are going to be in a pool with regular drug testing for people other than drivers and DOT required, I think we need to have some specific reasons for that. And I'd like to get into the drug aspect, and maybe we could stay away from, CDL driving aspect of fire station. Let's just talk about the drug aspect.
Well, let's talk about why we now have a piece of equipment that someone has to be in a drug pool in order to have a license to drive that piece of equipment.
Yes.
That's one thing that's a necessity, right? no argument about that. We have to put somebody, I guess we're gonna contract with whomever the
Yep.
company is in Sanford. They're gonna go, whatever, whether you have one or two, or whoever has got that license will have to.
Everybody that drives that dump truck will have to potentially get called to go pee in the cup, and myself as well. I'm not a CDL driver, but I supervise those
Right,
folks, so
right.
I'm in the same pool for driving the dump truck.
So between you and Public Works Director and
And they-
those employees, so right now, there's a need for a handful of people, right?
Yes.
The real question becomes, and I think what kind of got hashed out here, was within the scope of Public Works, we'll call it, where people are running large equipment and doing those things, should they also, and my question is, are they even allowed, is a municipality allowed to create a pool that would have people that aren't required to be in a drug pool? So in other words, the standard is, from the DOT perspective, it's driven by a category of license and those people that supervise it. Can we just, as municipal XYZ, willy-nilly come along and say, I think we want to cover X more people? Is that even allowed to do that?
I don't know the answer to that. Assume
When I talk to occupational health or work law, yes, essentially. However, the policies that we have to have in place exceed that because we need to make sure we're clearly defining those people and the programs that are offered through the follow-through of that.
Right.
So from the identifying the individuals tested to what happens if a test is positive, whatever it is, what is the steps, therefore, afterwards?
We have to have a program.
We have to have a very detailed program. That program has many different challenges for us because we don't have an HR department here. Because even though Gary may very well do HR as well, that's going to put another huge load on him just managing that program day to day.
Well, he can assign that.
If you have a problem or a foreseeable problem, you fix it.
Right.
If you don't have a problem and you want to fix something that you don't have, you will create one. So it's simple as that. You have a small town here with very few people that are driving large equipment. And when you start having a drug test with 3 or 4 people, unless you have a reason to, don't do it.
Well, I think one of the things, and you guys weren't here, but I think, and we had that out, that the fire departments, and I use that plural because are typically exempt from drug testing. Although I think there are some entry level, and that's with any municipality. You can require a drug test to come to work for the town of Waterboro, right? Or a drug test to become a firefighter, per diem fighter, or whatever the case may be.
Pre-employment.
Right. So that's a pre-employment thing. That's different than running a random drug pool, right? Random drug pool says, we believe that we have a category of workers that if they happen to be under the influence of drugs, present a danger to themselves and the municipality, right? Now, part of that, the state has, or the Maine DOT, or the federal DOT, has taken care of this, saying, if you have this class license, you have to go into a drug pool. That's a given, right? The next question is that who would we put into that drug pool? Is it somebody that is dealing with heavy equipment, running the transfer station compactors, supervising parks and rec activities? I mean, that's a whole big can of worms, I think, that you open up to say, what is it that we want to do with those people? And so I think the first thing you start with is how many municipalities deal with that? How many municipalities have already made that decision that this category of worker within the municipality, other than those that are required through the the DEP or MDOT edict, how many municipalities have random drug pools?
I don't know, I guess that, to me, that's kind of irrelevant to what is our problem and what are we trying to fix here? I don't need to go look at a whole bunch of other towns if we don't have a problem we're trying to fix.
No, but I think the risk here is, are we, because we don't have a problem, are we ignoring the possibility of a problem, right?
You can go broke fixing things.
Well, I understand that.
How many people have been a problem over the past 10 years of drinking and using drugs, driving town vehicles?
But that's,
How do you know
If
that's,
if there's someone, if a firefighter comes in and is suspected that he's under the influence of something, the supervisor's going to take him off immediately and deal with it immediately. If a person, if you got a firefighter that likes to have a drink on a Saturday night, great. You've got another one that likes to have a smoke on a Friday night. The one that has a smoke on a Friday night, Monday morning is going to show positive, and the person that got loaded on Saturday night with alcohol not going to show anything. So right there, you've got an inequity problem. So you're building problems in by the whole drug testing. I think what you need is very vigilant supervisors making darn sure no one is coming to work under the influence.
and we have that in the personnel policy today, because of the drug-free and alcohol-free environment. Supervisors have the right, if someone comes that they feel it's under the influence, to send them home, right?
You now have a dump truck. That probably includes 3 people. But the backhoe, as Doug and David had said at the meeting, that backhoe's out on the road all the time, up and down the road. We've got another dump truck, smaller truck, same employees. You've got a backhoe, skid steer running down to the transfer station. You've got a whole garage full of very large equipment that we now own over here at Center Waterboro Fire Station. We probably own 15 to 18 pieces of equipment that are run by somebody, whether they're full-time employees or part-time employees or volunteers. Are we going to eliminate all of these possibilities, or are we going to random test them to make sure that the town is safe as far as drugs and alcohol?
I guess that becomes the question here. David, you had a...
Please. David Benton, Director of Public Works. I've been involved with drug testing for most of my life because I've had a CDL and a Class 1 and a Class A. And also there are other things. You mentioned if someone comes to work and you smell alcohol in their breath, there are different rules if you have a CDL license than if you're a fireman or someone running a pump station compactor. If you have a CDL license and someone suspects that you've been drinking and you have alcohol in your breath, the law reads that you have to take them for a test. You cannot just tell them to go home, because if something happens while they're going home and they have an accident and kill someone, and it's the same with someone working at the transfer station or driving a fire truck tanker that weighs, what does that tanker weigh, Matt?
49,000 pounds.
49,000 pounds with air brakes. That means that it's a Class B licensed vehicle. And I know they're exempt, but you still have to think about those standards.
I mean, I agree with you. Those standards are there. And if you don't send a person that's drunk home, or that you suspect that's under the influence of drugs home, you deal with it. You got to deal with it right there. But that random drug test doesn't deal with that. It doesn't do anything there. It doesn't help you. I don't think it helps you
Yes,
out at all.
it does.
It does, John.
It does. I
Yeah.
just told you, John, I took the training because I was a supervisor on construction jobs. If we suspected someone to have alcohol in their breath, we had to take them for a test. That's the law.
That's not random.
Yes.
That is a drug
Kidding.
test that you are sending them
That's-
there. It's not a
that's-
random
that's
drug test.
Right, and John is right, it's not a random, it is
No, it
based
isn't.
on,
That's an
based on
everyday,
evidence.
an
but-
everyday thing.
But
that
it's
could
based
happen.
on evidence, it's not based
Yeah.
on, I'm pulling 10 people out of a pool,
That's
and
right.
they gotta
Yeah.
go within so
But
many.
you
Out of
also
the-
have to
out of
remember
this
too, that a pool consists of maybe thousands of people.
Right,
So you may
And
only
you
send
may
2 or
not
3
draw
a year.
anyone in the town of Waterboro for 6 months to a year.
yeah.
It isn't something that's going to
Gonna
draw
happen.
someone from Waterboro
Because,
weekly.
because this is probably not gonna get solved here tonight, we're gonna move quickly through some of this. Lisa?
The only thing I wanted to say is that you're probably right. I don't know anything about your testing, but to smell alcohol on an individual, you cannot guarantee that that person is under the influence of alcohol. They could be a diabetic, because if you have a diabetic, they will smell like alcohol.
I agree.
So we have to be careful of that, just as
I
a
agree,
liability.
But I was just telling you what they trained us
Yeah.
when they came.
So,
to
I mean,
the-
as far as your drug policy, if you have, even if you put in there reasonable suspicion, you can have them drug tested. It doesn't mean that they have to be in a random drug pool. If you have it in your policy, and that employee is known to have that in their policy, and they come against that policy, and they know that it says under a reasonable suspicion, you can automatically have them go to work well to get tested.
So I think
You don't need to have a random drug.
Like I said, we're not gonna solve this here tonight, but I do think that it is, and it becomes somewhat philosophical here. This becomes kind of a bigger picture of, do we believe that the municipality, as we move forward and we continue to purchase equipment, and we can include the fire department or not include the fire department, but I think what we need is those groups, you know, between David and Matt and Gary and, you know, I get a little antsy with Parks and Rec because, especially when you're hiring and stuff, you know, we gotta make sure that
Kids
background
say,
checks and stuff are done and whatnot, but those are the stakeholders here of whether or not we believe that there's a risk within the municipality. And certainly the 5 of us up here, and I'll speak for Gordon because I think he does have an opinion on it, but I think we will have 5 opinions that probably don't all align. But I really think that, and I don't want to send people off to do work that they don't need to do, but somehow we need to stir this up to say, do we or do we not? Do we or do we not have to address this going forward? Even though it may not be a problem today, is it something that we want to, and that's, I mean, I don't know, you know, I understand you don't care how many other municipalities, I kind of do. Other municipalities may be higher up the risk analysis pool than we are, right? In looking at, you know, hey, you know, risk maybe that a smaller municipality might not look at. Do they know something that we don't know? I mean, so I'm not one to, you know, like I said, I don't want to make work just for work, but there may very well be a good afternoon meeting between 4 people to sit down and say, what is it that we really want to get out of this, if we want to get into it at all. Because it does, you can't just decide willy-nilly that we're gonna add a paragraph to the
No.
to the employee, the personnel policy. It has to be a procedure. And it has to have who's gonna do the substance abuse professionals. You gotta, all of those things have to be spelled out. So when someone does suspect someone, what is the procedure that takes place? And it is not simple. David?
My feeling is,
Come on.
I have a bad knee here.
Oh, sit closer.
I know, I need to exercise it. My feeling also is that with what the state has just voted in, and depending on what their rules are as time goes on and how they handle it, we have to consider that as well. Because if it actually does become law that we can possess and smoke marijuana on a daily basis if we want, then if we don't have some sort of a
Well, I can probably say within some degree of certainty, unless the federal rules change, the Department of Transportation's rules for drivers, for FAA mechanics, they're not gonna change.
No, I agree.
And if you're in one of those jobs, you are still gonna be subjected to random drug testing.
And we're zero tolerance.
And with zero tolerance. And if you get hit, you guess what? You're gonna go through the process that says, how do you, all of those things. So unless that, and it's a huge, all of this stuff comes down from the Federal Department of Transportation. And it includes a whole gamut of different things. Drivers are just a piece of it, right?
Oh, sure.
So I don't believe what the state does is going to affect that at all. They may very well have defined where it can be sold, who can buy it, where you can grow it. If you're if you got a class 2 license or a CDL or a class 1 license that requires you to be in a drug pool, guess what's going to happen when you go on a random drug test and you hit positive?
I agree. And believe me, I'm not up here to pick on the fire department or the transfer station or Parks and Rec or anyone within our system. I just feel that it might be a good thing for us to start thinking about.
And I don't disagree. I think we should always be looking at potential risk.
I agree
Right.
with you, David, 'cause we've got some.
I don't think that we have a problem. I'm not saying we do, but sometimes trial and error helps us stay ahead
It's
of
the
it.
process getting there. How do we look at everything
Oh,
that's in
it's
front
going
of
to
us?
be difficult.
Because not everybody falls into that required pool.
Yeah.
The ones that don't fall into that pool, we need to have a whole platform.
You have some CDL people,
Right, but because we're exempt, it's not a requirement
but-
to be into the CDL
and
pool.
now we're going to look at the other side of the coin. You have some that do have a CDL,
Yeah.
and whether they're firemen or what they have a CDL license, so they fall under that ruling. What about the rest of them?
But not for purposes for the testing, because it's not a requirement of that apparatus that they're driving. You may have a physical, if anybody else, I don't know if you have a CDL license on the board, but you may not be in a pool to be tested just because you have a CDL license.
Because you're not actively using it.
Correct. And therefore, same with the fire and EMS and the apparatus, where it's not a requirement, you're not automatically into that pool.
So here's, and again, we can stir this until the cows come home. I think it should be something that you have as a discussion point with your management team of risk analysis, right? And it should be something that's discussed of, are we in a position, or will we be in a position 5, 10 years from now, of really requiring the fact that we have some issues that need to be addressed. I don't think you can just, because it's not going to happen like, oh yeah, well, we're just going to boilerplate and put our name on it. That's not going to happen. This has to be worked out. You may contract with somebody, but when it gets down to it, you still have to go through all
To
of
get
it.
back to John and his comment of the alcohol, on a random drug test, every now and then, you will come up with a random drug and alcohol test. It'll only be random, unless the supervisor, public works director, suspects that on a Monday morning, will they ever go for an alcohol test? But when this company does the drug and alcohol test, it could come up, your name gets pulled, you're either gonna go for a drug test or an alcohol test. And if you're going for an alcohol and drug test on a Monday morning, your supervisor or somebody will truck you to work with. If you're going for just a drug test, it takes 7 to 12 days to come back. You will not have to drive, somebody will not have to drive you for that test. But the alcohol and drug test, you will have, because that's an instant, yes, you are under the influence. You blow into a tube and they know instantly, you get the paperwork when you walk out that you're 0%.
Right.
And if there's any question, the supervisor is out in the waiting room waiting for you, and he will truck you back and send you home.
It used to be like 5% of those pulled in the pool
Yeah.
randomly got alcohol tested. Julie, you've had your hand halfway up and all the way up, and
It was just a statement. The last time we brought it up, I brought in what MMA stated and how it could be, and that we had great guidelines. I can see it if you had the whole drug pool. That is, if everybody, that's a way to protect your entire town. And no, it doesn't have to be your CDL drivers. Then you got your kids covered. You got the transfer station. It's in a pool. If you don't know, you might, as Dwayne said, that you might be able to bring up one a year. That's it. You don't know whom you're going to get. There's a safety check to look at it at that people know they might get tested. Why not be good? The State Fair Association has even doing it now. We have.
I can understand that.
Yes, but I mean, we can't even go into the pulling ring. And like that. But I meant it's there, and it has calmed it down. And there is state laws now that we can be barred for up to 3 years. And they're looking in next week, they're having a meeting in Augusta, and it's going to be even stiffer laws, and they're trying to get a law by one of the representatives or senators to add it onto the LDL. But just to protect the town, it might be worth something to looking in. It's there. You know, it's just like a kid. Yeah, there's the cookie jar, but you're told you can't have it until you can, when you're supposed to have it. So you go home and you have your drink. You don't bring it to work with you. That's basically all. But I recommend reading what MMA has to say about it again.
So, Julie, do you think that people who work in the front office here, or
If you're going to do it for everybody, say a small group, if you're going to include Parks and Rec and the transfer, you might as well include everybody, because you hear when they've had some of these investigations in other towns that the clerks or whatever, they found a bottle in their bureau.
okay,
You know, in their
let's
drawer.
talk about the fire department, because the call force
Yeah, I was just going to say,
is a real problem.
Ted, how do you, with the call force that we have and the makeup and the combination, if randomly Joe Blow is on the call force, not working for the town of Waterboro today, working for his own job, working wherever,
Out of town, maybe.
you need to be tested.
It's
Yeah.
only gonna be for your full-time.
Yeah.
But they operate
Working
apparatus.
20 hours or better a week, and those call fighters, you're gonna have to manage if you feel that somebody needs, when they get there, to grab one of them fire trucks or the ambulance or drive in or whatever. If you've got think you've got a problem, then you can pull that aside and say, I need to take him down for a drug and alcohol test.
But
If
there
just change
it.
there is a procedure on how you would have to handle that.
It's gonna have to be in the personnel policy, to whether your call fighters are or aren't in the,
Who's in
Drug and
or
alcohol.
who's out.
yeah. But we're talking at this point of the either part-time and full-time, or the part-time versus the full-time, but anybody that's working over 20 hours, which would take care of your transfer station, running that backhoe, skid steer.
So if we get, like I said, I mean, Gary, ultimately, it's your responsibility, and I think that, you should have that discussion with your department heads to say, you know, and treat it as part of our risk analysis. It's the same as we worry about whether the buildings are, we have risk in the buildings, right? And those kind of things. It all should be built into.
The drug testing, if it comes back positive, you'll be sent for the second test.
Is this just to decide?
14 days later.
Is this just to decide if random drug testing should be a policy? And then from there, it could be just based on circumstantial, and you wouldn't really need to pull a random drug test unless you see evidence that it's needed?
If we instituted a policy in town that said X amount of our employees are in quote unquote a random drug pool, we would contract with somebody like, is it Workwell or somebody? They run the pool.
And you pay a fee
Okay?
whether or not
We
you
pay a
realize
fee. They're gonna call Matt 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and say, one of your employees is being pulled for a random drug pool. He has to be at Workwell within
that. Oh, they decide.
45
They'll
minutes.
decide who's
right?
gonna do it, and they'll actually call.
Because they don't, it's a random selection, it's typically computer generated.
Is there a
Right.
way to do a policy without having it be random through a corporation, or can it
It's
be?
a
Well, you can, but
As
then
a
you
company?
have to be able to you have to prove to the regulators that you,
Are doing?
yeah, and
Yeah.
believe me, it's,
Wow.
If you're in the drug pool, you may get called 3 times in a year,
Oh, jeez.
and Matt ain't gonna get called.
And doing initial
it's
drug
a-
screening isn't enough?
It's a
to-
tumbler, and your name comes out, you go. But
it's a very
random,
complex
and
system.
you may not go for another 4 or 5 years.
And that's why you don't see municipalities running their own programs. They all, or trucking companies or excavation companies, they're all contracting with Workwell or someone that.
When I worked at Foglio's, we were involved with, I think there were 13 companies. There were well over 1,500, 2,000 people involved.
So that company, that's their business. They're in the business of managing those programs.
Even the state of Maine does not do their own random testing. They hire a company to do it. They called the lady in Scarborough and said, so-and-so's going Monday morning. And she will, Monday morning, call the supervisor that's got the man.
So
Either
let's-
he's got to truck him or
Let's
go on his own.
put this kind of on hold until you guess you guys at least have a further conversation and that's.
Well, conversation with who for
I
specifically
think
what?
between you and your managers,
Yeah.
David, Matt, whoever's running Parks and Rec these days, Clint, whomever, and sit down and say, from a risk perspective, today, future, whatever, is this something that we want to pursue?
Okay.
What
And
does
I
it
think-
do for us?
Right, what does it do for us? Does it mitigate unforeseen risk? But I think then you come back and say, and maybe this board decides that you should be pursuing it regardless of whether or not you guys think that way or not. That's a decision between the board and you at that point in time. And it may very well be that we accept your analysis and move on.
There are several companies now here in the state of Maine that require a drug testing prior to employment, and they pay the first initial drug testing, which is about $100. If they pass the test and are hired, then the company pays them back in their first check, and that guarantees the employer that whoever is just hired is drug-free.
And that's that at that moment, anyway.
Yeah.
And that's all that does. You got hired by a municipality or a company or whatever. You have an entrance, you have a mandatory drug test to get hired. It's a condition of employment that you pass a drug test. different than saying we're gonna have a drug pool. Could be in addition to that. Okay? I'm more than willing to sit with you if you need more guidance. Okay? Yes, sir.
I've heard some conversation about operation vehicles and CDLs and EVOCs or other type of training programs. Is that a discussion that's going to come back to the board again for more
No,
clarification?
I think that between you guys and gals, you can all sit down and have, you know, a constructive discussion of do we, don't we, what is the long-term risk, short-term risk? What do we want to make for a recommendation? It's been brought up, we've tossed it around, there's, you know, certainly pros and cons within the room, right? So, but you guys are managing the departments and you're managing the town. So I think you have to look at, and you have to look at it from a risk perspective. Is there a risk here that we're just saying, we don't have a problem, so don't worry about it? I don't know.
We could back this around forever, like
Yeah.
you say. I think you're right, putting it back in the department head's lap with Gary. Sit down and work that out.
And if you guys think that
This can
the
go on
risk is,
forever.
the risk doesn't, you know, the cost and effort doesn't outweigh the risk, then you can tell us no. Doesn't mean that we might not come back, but that's all I'm saying is that let's have that discussion.
Can I go against something I said earlier tonight?
Sure.
When we were here before, we were talking about driver training, et cetera. There's no better time since you're both here and the whole board is here. Can you give us just a real short history of what the EVOC training is for somebody that wants to come work for the fire department?
We require a real quick picture of it. Simple. We do annual driver's license check, so initial employment, driver's history, and then we have a policy. We have 6 different policies as required by the Maine Department of Labor. Multiple pages, each policy document is multiple different pages. Driver selection policy is the first one, looking at convictions, looking at history, then we have to run it annually thereafter. We have policies on how the vehicle is going to operate in emergency response mode, yada, yada, yada. So we have 6 policies that are directed by the state. In addition to that, the operators are required, both on the Maine EMS rule and for fire apparatus, to have a 16-hour emergency vehicle operations course. And that includes cone time, where they actually do the same exact cone course as your CDL operator license. You do the alley dock, you do the serpentine, and you have an 8-hour classroom portion for emergency vehicle operations, where it's essentially the same thing as a CDL, except for you're going around a fire truck in a fire station or an ambulance. They do that. The only thing that allows you to do is to have a certificate at that point to begin your driver training, which is 4 hours minimally daytime, 4 hours minimally nighttime, and then you have all the competency requirements of each individual piece of apparatus, which have to be documented. So minimal time is 4. It could be 8 hours a day. It could be 8 hours a night. It could be longer than that. And that's on each truck. So each one is specific for the training program. And so the individuals actually go through an extensive program and it's in compliance with Maine Department of Labor. The difference would be is if you don't go to DMV in Springvale and pick up the book and either challenge, sit and take the test and then go for a road test a couple months later. We have encouraged that. We have, I believe it's 16 CDL operators. 9 of them are operators of the ladder truck. It's been on a voluntary basis. We've had success with that. We've offered to have people take the fire truck. I've driven them myself when if nobody else is available to take the fire truck for the road test. But overall, the program that we have, coupled with the policies that are in place from the VFIS, as endorsed by Maine Department of Labor as well, are pretty clear on the training program for driving apparatus, both in normal operations and emergency response mode.
So it's not just, I think I'm going to drive tonight.
We have people that have been on for years that still don't drive because they haven't finished the training.
So I'll just take the Tahoe home tonight. That'll be okay?
We don't let John drive.
All right,
Thank you.
let's move on.
That's probably why he doesn't want that alcohol test.
Okay, 6-month budget review status. I think you've got it in front of you, Gary.
Yes.
I'm gonna quickly go over this, we don't have to go into it. All the deep
Yep.
minutiae.
Grab the expense side first. Revenue, I think, has an orange top. The green one might be the expense side. Dwayne, I think there's one right up on top of the pile.
Yeah.
On page 1 on the expense report, if you go about a third of the way down, you look at that first green mark. Obviously, tax billing is a one-time expense. That's 97% expended. Toward the bottom of page 1, property and casualty insurance. This is a mistake that I made. If you remember, I think the last 1 or 2 Junes, we have come back into the budget and made corrections, as you folks have been doing long before I got here, to correct individual accounts. And I missed that because this line has been under budgeted for 2 or 3 years, and we've come back and we've corrected, we've made a transfer into that line in June, and I've missed the fact that I've underfunded it by about 50%. So that's funded for $20,000 for this year. When you see the budget in another few weeks, you're going to see about a $40,000 figure in there, which is proper. So I apologize for that oversight, and it's another reason I think that we just let the budgets lie at the end of the year as long as the total is in balance. Going over to page 2, election expense, pretty obvious. We had a presidential election, that's why that's 71% expended already. Down to the bottom, in terms of IT, several things. With David's year starts out, if he's going to buy an object or a service, he does it usually in the early part of the year, so that equipment line, as well as the software line on the next page. These are purchases that he makes early in the fiscal year as soon as it's approved for that piece of equipment or that software. Municipal buildings, the one entitled equipment, we upgraded the alarm system here so that everybody could have their own unique ID number. We wanted an audit trail so that we can tell when somebody had been in the building. Too many people have been using the same 4-digit number for decades, and probably 50 to maybe over 100 people knew what that number was. And we've eliminated that now, and everyone, including the board, has their own unique audit number, code number to get into the building and turn the alarm off. Over on page 4, middle of the page, as we know, the library furnace died, had to be replaced, and that has wiped that line out very badly. It was to the tune of, I think, something north of $13,000. Parks and Rec, on the bottom of page 4, we're going to need to make some changes to that program expense line. 2 years ago, Julie, help me out here. When did we switch? When did the RSU 57 force us to have the buses supplied by their drivers? Was that the second year last year or the first year?
Second year.
Okay. We used to hire the bus, we used to rent the bus, pay the driver out of payroll, buy our own fuel for that, and spread it over several accounts. Well, as you can see from the note there, we paid just south of $9,000 in bus rentals last year, which includes the fuel, includes the driver, which has kind of made that line underfunded, if you will. And that's probably going to be $40,000 to $45,000 funded for FY 17 and 18. You'll see that $30,500 figure for program expense go up considerably, in part because of the buses. And RSU 57 wants to continue to operate like this. They're not going to just let us rent the bus and supply our own driver. Stop me if I'm talking too fast, you folks. I'm moving on to page 6. Nothing on page 5. Middle of the page, some uniforms and ambulance costs were up at 66% expended. We had 1 new employee on the uniform side, and I think it's clear, and I'll look over here to the rest of the crew. The ambulance costs, I think drugs have gone nowhere but up in terms of the costs. So at half year, we're at 66% expended there. The bottom of page 6 in Ross Corner, remember Ross Corner Fire Department budget is split 3 ways between Alfred, Shapley, and Waterboro. And obviously that was a one-time payment we made to them.
They're now asking it for the first of the year instead of the last week of the year.
It's all the same fiscal year. Now let's get over in page 7 and the details and the nitty-gritty of Clint's world in the transfer station. Suffice to say, burnable furniture has gone up from $49 to $60 a ton, and sheetrock, shingles, and some of those other items are going in the landfill now, which has made a dramatic increase from about $49 to $73 a ton. It costs a lot more to landfill something than to recycle it. Shingles all used to go into asphalt paving, et cetera, and for some reason they're not doing as much or at all of that at the moment. Clint's just telling me that the transfer station usage and tonnage and totals is going up. Building expenses, building activity is going up in town, that's for sure. We can see that from the code enforcement office activity, and it really shows at the transfer station when the economy is in a little better shape. Page 8, first highlight there, pit restoration. We did that last fall. It was in conjunction with the salt shed when we covered that old lagoon there. So that's why that full $10,000 was expended. Town roads, we had a busy summer and fall. It's not unusual that that would be skewed with the activity last year. Salt shed funds, let's talk about that in the middle. One thing that I haven't done yet is to move the remains of that $700,000 salt shed loan over to this line. And we will be doing that and then taking some money out of paving, because remember we paved the entranceway that was all dirt and just a muddy mess in the springtime. And obviously that paving going into the Public Works garage was not part of the original $700,000 loan, nor should it be. So we'll be pulling some of those loan proceeds and some paving monies back in to bring this line into balance. I think the last thing I had was on page 9 under buildings. Carry forwards were brought in here from what was carried forward in the budget, at town meeting last June. So we're at just under 52% expended here, and if you take out the $26,000 carry forward and the salt shed adjustments, it's almost right down to 50% at the end of December. Remember, this is these numbers are through the end of December, not through today. Any questions on the expense line? Moving over to revenue.
I've got a question on the expense,
Yep.
on the drugs for the ambulance.
Yep.
What are we paying? You carry the overdose drug, or is it Narcan? Or, what are we paying for that? Is that going up?
Not yet.
Not yet.
$54.
Okay, so you're still paying that, not the $4,600 it supposedly went up to?
No.
Right.
That also includes supplies too.
Right. Have you done any research on where you may be able to get that more cost effectively once that rate increase goes up?
We have no idea right now. If it goes up to $4,600 a dosage, we're not going to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
That's only for 2 applications. We had 2 overdoses just last week. So.
Is that fentanyl ODs? Fentanyl ODs? Or
No,
yeah,
heroin.
Heroin.
Were they resuscitated?
How many, you said 2 last week, how many this year?
Over a dozen. Just this
January
year.
1?
That's just an
Or-
that's an offer.
Yes.
Okay,
Do you want revenue or do you want to move on?
That's probably another discussion.
I'm okay, I mean, this
Revenue's pretty boring.
Revenue, I mean,
Your revenue is at 60%, and it's above projections. A variety of different highlighted things in here. But you know me, I'm going to underestimate revenues and over budget for expenses. So we're in good shape in terms of the total thing.
okay. All right, we wanted to do this last month, so would a little bit more timely, but.
Thank you, Lisa.
And we'll go through this again right after the third quarter in, so we have some pretty good idea of where we are.
I got one question. Did we ever get the cameras on the other end of the building for the Parks and Rec and people coming and going?
Yes.
They've been there for quite a while.
Okay. The last time we talked about it, there wasn't any cameras on that end of the building.
Last time we talked about it, I didn't know we had 3.
It's been a few months. I've added
Okay.
some right at the entrance and just in the last few weeks, about 3 weeks ago.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay,
But there was some in the gym before that.
Okay,
in the gym,
But not outside.
not outside,
Yes,
That was your question.
yeah,
yeah, there's a couple outside too.
okay.
okay?
I'm all set.
All right, so we're all set with review. Old business, nothing. Other discuss a vote to approve the minutes of January 10th, regular meeting.
So moved.
And moved. We have a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of January 10th meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Pending decision to review comprehensive plan task list is still up there. Week's action list. I think other than going back to the well on this drug testing thing, but you can work that into your, you don't have to do that this week. I just think it needs to be something. Agenda items. Couple of things reminded me, there was, and I think I sent everybody a note. I don't know if everybody saw the article that was on WGME on discontinued roads and
Yeah, I did see that.
municipalities that have still have a legal right to. Anyway, it kind of stimulated my thought on, we agreed to work with the ATV club to work an ordinance to deal with their needs. And spring will be here before we know it, so we need to start that exercise.
If we put on the ATV club, if we go into an agreement, and they put money into these roads, and we've got records of this, that doesn't abandon a road.
That what?
Will not abandon,
Right.
we will not be abandoning,
Right.
Bennett Hill or,
Right.
I'm not gonna pull up
Yeah.
different names, but, we've got some of these roads that we supposedly haven't put money into. Some of them I know we have, but we don't have records of it, so, if there's money put into this anywhere, we need to keep some type of a record for the amount of money that is being put in by the public of the town, so that, these roads aren't abandoned.
Well, let me pull the definitions back in from Augusta and put that together in a memo. And then we
Well, I
can-
thought it was interesting last night on that article because it was very, that if it's an abandoned road, closed road, whatever, there's still right of public access across the road. And it would, it was,
The amazing part was, if the mail's being delivered, it's a public access.
that was.
That was the most
Yeah.
amazing. I pulled it up on the computer this morning when I got to work, but, it was very amazing.
Yeah, if there's a designated mail route there, guess who's responsible for plowing the road and keeping it?
I do want to commend all of the public works and the contractor for the job that they've done in the last couple of weeks and the hours that they've put in. The town roads have looked very good.
Yep.
When I go home from my long hours, I can go right home in two-wheel drive and very, very well done.
Yeah, I think they've stayed
They
ahead of this
stayed
very,
right on
very
top
well.
of it.
Yeah.
These are
Any-
the best roads I ride on
Yeah.
to Portland and back.
A lot of these towns, I understand, are running out of salt. I see we was hauling salt today with the new wheeler, but we've got facilities to keep it, and,
We've had to start hauling sand again
yeah.
with what's
They
going
had-
on.
I met the wheeler this afternoon hauling, but we do want to watch the salt that we're getting up there. Some of this salt that some of these towns are getting are very chunky, wet, and that wet salt ain't gonna last,
Yeah.
if we
We
still
buy
got
from-
some.
We still buy from, is it Shercliffe?
Eastern, I think.
It's the
There's-
cog, right?
There's some very,
We still get the cog price?
No, we haven't gone through that. We've actually done better.
Okay.
Yeah.
very wet and chunky salt, and that doesn't go through them.
Any other discussion of agenda items anybody want to see here in the next session? Well, let me know.
Discuss some more on the TIFs, and if you notice in the reporter, they had an article on the front page of that about
the Hollis.
Hollis apply TIFs. So,
voting today.
excuse me?
They had to, right? Because it was going to run out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm prepared to bring back a draft polygon, if you will, on suggestions from Chuck Morgan and Gary Lamb and Lee J in terms of what you can consider for where that could be. So do you want that 2 weeks?
Yeah, at least for initial discussion point.
I have mixed feelings, but that's
Yeah.
all right.
Yep.
I mean, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. I
We
guess.
went 20 years, I think your wife was involved 20 years ago, and we tabled it back then. I probably can dig out all of the paperwork if I look at it.
Anything else, guys? Sensing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And move, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
7:38 p.m.